Hey TikTok, so I don't usually make 2 videos in a day. I think I said that before, but I wrote something on Facebook about accountability and I want to talk about it for a second. And this is probably going to be a long video, so I will not be offended if you decide to click off. So first and foremost, I would like to really encourage people to stop using accountability as a buzzword. Accountability is not black and white. Accountability is not synonymous with fault. And you cannot take accountability for someone else or their actions. And the reason I feel the need to express this is because when we talk about a victim situation specifically, or when we hear someone tell their story about something that happened to them, there's always at least one person that says, well, you got to take accountability for how you got there. Here's the problem with that. You cannot take accountability for something you don't know. You can learn from it, but you cannot take accountability for something you don't know. And the reason you cannot take accountability for something you don't know is because you don't know that you don't know it until you know it. Which means you don't even know there's a need for you to look for that information until you encounter something that teaches you the lesson that information requires. So when we talk about accountability in a victim situation, you can learn from it. And honestly, I will say the biggest lesson you're probably going to learn from it is to listen to yourself and trust yourself. But even then, the only accountability you can really take is the next time around when that particular type of situation presents itself again. Because even if you don't listen to the signs or the flags, you're not responsible for what another person does to you. And to beat yourself up for not listening to yourself when you probably don't even have the practice of listening to yourself, because we're not programmed, we're not taught to listen to ourselves. You only run the risk of making the same decision over and over and over again because you're so caught up in the fact that you didn't see it, or maybe you saw it and you should have listened to yourself. You're just running yourself crazy that you cannot think clearly. So while accountability is taking responsibility for your part in something, you cannot take accountability or responsibility for your part in your own abuse. Unless you intentionally and purposely put yourself in that situation, knowing it was going to happen, which is a thing. I personally went through a phase of my life where I completely hated myself. So I purposely put myself in situations to harm myself. Mind you, I took accountability for that because I knew I did it intentionally. But if you don't go into a situation to intentionally harm yourself and you get harmed, you are not accountable for any part of that. The person who hurt you is accountable for hurting you. And all you can do is find a way to heal and learn from the situation. And you should also avoid becoming cynical or becoming extreme in the way you judge others after a victim situation. Because then you run the risk of being the one harming others, and then you have to take accountability for that. So all in all, for people who actually care to use the word correctly and teach the word correctly and apply it correctly, you cannot take accountability for your role in your own abuse unless you put yourself in that situation intentionally. You cannot take accountability for something that you did not know because you don't know it until you are in a situation, unfortunately. Which means you have no way of knowing that you even need that information. You have no way of knowing that you need to seek that information. And lastly, which I didn't say in the video yet, while you cannot take accountability for the harm someone does to you, you can take accountability for the harm you do in response to that harm. But in that case, you take accountability, you give yourself grace, and you heal and move forward the best you can. And if you've gotten this far, I want y'all to know that this applies to everybody. This is not a man versus woman thing. This is for everyone. Because what I've noticed is that a lot of people who try to make victims take accountability have been victims themselves, and they have taken the weight of their own abuse on their backs. And not only does that weigh you down, that strips the other person of their opportunity to learn from their bad behavior. So again, for people who care and have gotten this far, can we please use this word correctly? Because at this point, it's becoming meaningless. It's losing its value as a concept because we want everyone to take accountability for stuff they can't control. Lastly, we want people to take accountability for being human. This is a journey. We're not popped out of the womb knowing everything we need to know. And unfortunately, not every parent is teaching every child the same thing. And that's not because they're bad parents, but that's because parents are also human. So instead of shaming each other with a word and a concept that could actually be helpful to our growth, let's be adults about it and start using logic when it comes to these things. And if there's a part of this you don't agree with, please let me know. I'm up for the conversation. Love y'all. Be good to one another. But most importantly, be good to yourselves. Mwah.